If you're like me, after a frequency of events, you start to kind of question how many things are actually coincidence. And I start this video off by saying that because I feel that there's honestly a reason why you're watching this right now. Now, this may not be what you want to hear, but I think it might be what you need to hear. I'm not going to sit here and try to entertain you and jump up and down and do comedy or do dancing or anything like that. I'm going to deliver some information that I think you need to hear that will help you improve your life. And all of this, everything I ever say on this podcast is simply things that have happened in my life, the things that I've done to get to where I'm at now, and they've helped me, so maybe they'll work for you too. So listen, a lot of people have this misinterpretation that they can't do whatever it is that they're trying to do because they lack resources. They don't have the money, they don't have the time, they don't have the expertise, they don't have the environment, they don't have the right circumstances. And the world is filled with excuses. And no matter how bad your situation is, there's somebody right now that would give it all up to take your life as it is. As it is. You're watching this podcast right now. You have a phone or a computer. You have access to the internet. You probably have a roof over your head, water, and food. Because if you don't have those basic necessities, then you probably shouldn't be watching this anyways. The point that I'm trying to make is that you have everything you need. And in a world full of resources, it's not about how many resources you have. It's about how resourceful you are. You have everything you need. In fact, you have too much. You have too much. You look at some of the largest companies in the world that have been around the longest. Most of those companies started in some of the worst economic times the world has ever seen. Why? Because if you can win when it's hard, then you're going to crush everyone else when it's easy. So if you've been telling yourself a story about I lack resources, I don't have the money, I don't have the time, I don't, then you need to start shifting your view to seeing what you do have and what is available to you, because with simply what's available to you, the internet and the smart device that you're watching this on right now, you have the ability to move mountains in any direction that you want, whether that be in health, wealth, love, fulfillment, happiness. It doesn't matter. All the information's there. So on this topic of having everything you need, I wanted to share with you guys a study that I came across recently, which was conducted by the Johns Hopkins Hospital University. So on the topic that you have everything you need, I wanted to bring up, and on that topic that you have everything you need, I wanted to share with you guys some interesting statistics that I came across that came from a clinical study that was done. So I think that there's a massive issue with people who are depressed and feeling depressed, and they tell themselves they're depressed because it's a form of habitual thinking. But there was a study conducted by Johns Hopkins where for a month they gave people magic mushrooms, right? Psilocybin. And essentially, they took these people who were feeling depressed and they gave them psilocybin for about a month and cognitive therapy. And so about 6 weeks after this treatment, 54% of people felt no more depression. Right now, I'm not here endorsing psilocybin and taking magic mushrooms and that should be your answer. But I'm just telling you that is proof, scientific proof, that even the answers to some of the things that can make you feel the worst are found in nature. And the reason why I bring up found in nature, because the alternative is taking antidepressants, these pills that have been shown to be very, very, very ineffective, extremely ineffective. A very, very tiny percent of people who take antidepressants actually ever feel better and feel like they've moved on from that depression because of the antidepressants. But the vast majority of people, they never see any improvement. There was another study done, and this was a meta study. And so a meta study is where they take all the studies and they kind of average everything out to kind of get a meta study, right? A large analysis of smaller studies that were conducted. And what they found was that when they surveyed people who were on antidepressants, 60% of the people had no improvement at all. None whatsoever. Okay. And then out of the other 40%, right? Out of the other 40%, only 50% of them felt an improvement of about 50%, meaning that those other 40% felt 50% better than how they felt initially. So they felt half as depressed as they once were prior to taking antidepressants. Now, I think that you create your reality, and ultimately what you focus on becomes your reality. If you were to play the thoughts of somebody who's depressed, right? If you were to write them out and look at them, it would all be self-consumed words. I feel bad because of this, and I'm this, and I don't have enough this, and I'm sad because of this, and why is my life like this, and why did this happen to me? Everything is about themselves. They're constantly looking inward, and that's part of the reason why I believe they feel the way they feel. Because I know that whenever I start to look outward and I start to try and care more about others and those who surround me than myself, I begin to shift my focus. And even if I wasn't feeling great that day, or even if I didn't feel like doing the work, or even if I didn't feel like helping somebody, I know that once that act is done, I feel good about myself. It feels good to give. And there's a universal law, the law of reciprocity. The more you give, the more you get. So listen, I want you to understand that you have everything you need. But it's no secret that there's going to be a point in time where there's going to be elements of your life that are going to be difficult and challenging and that you will have to push through. But you don't need to resort to drugs. You don't need to resort to alcohol. You don't need to resort to different vices in order to try and mask these emotions. You have everything you need already. You don't need to add these external sources to try and supplement your emotions. That's weak. It's easy to drown your depression in alcohol. It's easy to smoke the pain away. And I can tell you this firsthand because I've done those things for a very long time. That's the coward's way out. And if you're watching this, you're not a coward. There's a reason why you're on this video. I honestly don't try to put SEO and the greatest thumbnails and the most catchy titles and, oh, I'm gonna hook them. And like, I do that in other videos and other companies when I'm helping them market. But this is honestly, it's to reach certain people that are meant to see this message. I don't care if I get 1 view or 1 million views. It means nothing to me, honestly. And I'm going to do this regardless of the view count, regardless of the subscriber count, because I don't give a shit about these vanity metrics. What I care about is that I get this message to somebody who needs it. And I believe that eventually the message is going to reach the right person. And that person is going to go out and shift their thought patterns and make changes in their life that are important to them. And they are going to have a greater impact on other people around them. And that's why I'm doing this. Not for anything else. Not because I'm trying to make a couple of pennies off AdSense, off, YouTube. So I was watching this video today, and it was about Peter Parker, right? Spider-Man. And it was basically showing how, like, all the shitty moments in his life, right? It showed how he was a nerd, and he was bullied, and he was made fun of, and everybody thought he was a creep, and he virtually had no friends, and the love of his life at many points in his life didn't want him, didn't want anything to do with him. She loved somebody else. And in that moment is when I realized everybody wants to be Spider-Man. Everybody wants the notoriety. Everybody wants the fame. Everybody wants to have these cool, amazing superpowers that people look up to and can admire. But nobody wants to be Peter Parker. Nobody wants to be alone at the lunch table. Nobody wants to deal with pressure and anxiety and depression and turn it into something good. He could have used those powers for evil, but he didn't. He made a conscious choice. And although he wasn't the richest, the smartest, the strongest person, he learned to be resourceful. It wasn't necessarily about his resources. And it just really made me realize, like, if I want to be Spider-Man, right? If I want to be more successful, if I want to have a better body, if I want to have whatever I desire in this life, I'm going to have to also be Peter Parker. I'm going to also have to be okay with getting my teeth kicked in. I'm going to also have to be okay with being told no over and over and over again. I'm going to have to be okay with doing things that make me feel uncomfortable if I want to be on that other side of the spectrum. I don't want average. I don't want normal bullshit like everybody else in this world. This life is binary to some degree. I do believe that this world is a series of zeros and ones. You either do or you don't. You either are or you aren't. But there are certain things in life that are a spectrum. And if you want to have the highest highs and the best of the best, you got to be okay with eating the worst of the worst. And that's something that when I'm talking to you guys about all of these things, I'm looking at a camera that has a screen flipped that I can see, and I can see my reflection. I can see the video as it's being produced. I can see the blue light over here, the lamp, the red light right here. I can see all of it. And I do that on purpose because I'm talking to myself. These are all messages that I feed to myself internally on a day-to-day basis because I know I'm not where I want to be right now. And I'll never actually be where I want to be because as I approach my goals, I will move the goalposts. I will further extend the point that I desire to reach because that's called growth. That's called not being okay with content. And so I say this message to let you know that you're not alone. I don't think I'm perfect. I know that there's still a lot of areas that I need to improve on. But you know what? It took me years of learning from other mentors, reading a bunch of books, isolating myself from the world, making a ton of sacrifices, not going out, not partying, not drinking, not smoking, not, surrounding myself with the wrong people. And if I could just give you one or two little pieces of information, that can help you get to the next step in whatever it is that you're trying to do. Maybe that advice is, hey, focus on your health. Hey, pick up a fucking book. There's books on anything that you want to do for a very low price. You can get access to some of the greatest minds of the world, people that aren't even alive anymore. You can't just call them up and try to take them out for coffee. Not that they would, even if you could, but you could buy their books. And so this podcast is simply a reflection of my internal dialogue. And I don't sit here from a position of, oh, I'm better than you, you need to listen to me. It's all simply like, this is what I've learned from some of what I believe to be some of the greatest minds who've ever lived. And I think it's information worth sharing, because the good information, the great information that should be shared is the 1%. And the 99% of the crap on the internet is just that. It's stupid videos, it's prank videos, it's the dancing TikToks, it's the pornography, it's the music about killing and drugs. It's all mainly negative stuff. And in the universe, there's counter forces. There's counter strikes. There's a yin and a yang. And I guess it would be a good time to tell you guys why it's even called the Counter-Strike Podcast. And the reason I decided to name it the Counter-Strike Podcast is because I believe that we're constantly under attack. Our minds are constantly under attacks by our phones, by the media, by the food supply, by pretty much all aspects of our lives. If you look deep enough and you are not cognitive of what you are consuming, if you decide to drink tap water because you don't do the research into what the best type of water that you should be drinking is, that's your fault. Right? If you don't do the research to understand organic versus non-organic, or you don't do the research to understand, positive frequency music versus just drill murder rap, then that's on you. Right? If all you choose to consume is the standard conventional media, and that's all you decide to believe, you decide to take no external sources into consideration other than what you see on the news, then that's on you. But I believe there should be something to counterbalance this stuff, because the world is filled with it. And more people are waking up. And I might not be the one to awaken the masses and awaken the billions, but you know what? Maybe this video connects with somebody who is. This means more to me than me. This means more to me than money or any of the standard reasons why most people do this. Like I mentioned earlier, I don't care about anything else other than simply spreading what I believe in my current state to be the right message to get across to whatever people are willing to consume it, because the world is filled with crap. So, we must take accountability and put things into our own hands. We must take accountability for what we consume, for what we put into our bodies, for what we put into our mind. No one's going to do it for you. Your friends are not going to do it for you. And even, unfortunately, as it is to say, most of your parents are not going to do it for you. And if you're an adult on your own, there's literally no one to hold you accountable but yourself. That's one of the things that I love about the real estate industry. It exposes you to you. Because if you're the person that cannot hold yourself accountable, it becomes very apparent very quickly. My first year in real estate, I made $16,000. I thought I was smart. I thought I knew it all. I thought this is going to be easy. I thought, like my first year in entrepreneurship back in 2017, I got into real estate about 2020. I thought I'll be making six figures before the year's up. Little did I know, it wasn't until 2021 to where I even started to get close. And now I'm chasing, how do I make $1 million in a month? How do I make $1 to $2 million in a month? How is this even fathomable? Well, let's start with the math. How many transactions at what dollar amount would I have to actually transact in order to achieve that result? Most people, they can never even make any progress because they won't even do the math. They won't even look at the numbers. And it's not always about money, because my goals aren't necessarily around monetary values. I try to position my goals around actions. So instead of saying, I want to close one deal this month, right? I tell myself, I want to make 1,000 phone calls this month. And now my goals are directly correlated to the action that produces the result, not the result itself. Because I've noticed that when I made my goal to make 50,000 a year or 100,000 a year, the minute that I hit that goal, I would take my foot off the gas and I would screw myself for the next 3 to 6 months. But the minute that I started attaching my goals to actions that then produce the goals, well, it doesn't matter if I made, let's say my goal is to make 1,000 phone calls and I've only made 300, but I've closed 10 deals already. The goal wasn't 10 deals. The goal was 1,000 phone calls. And that allows me to keep pushing, because I know if I don't hit those phone calls, I don't give a fuck about the deals. I don't care about if I do 1 or 10. What I care about is that I meet the goal that I set for myself. I keep my word to myself. I said I was going to do X, so I'm going to hit X. Because I know I can lie. I can get here on the internet and lie to everybody and say, hey guys, I did 1,000 phone calls. Yeah, I'm disciplined. But deep down in my head, maybe I only did 300, 500, 999. I'll know in my fucking head that I didn't do it. And I can sit here and lie to everybody else. But that alone will eat me up inside. It'll eat me up inside, and I won't be able to live with myself. One of the entrepreneurs that I follow and I really like to study his work, his companies are doing a couple $100 million a year. He put out a video and he said, success isn't about the money. It's not about the cars. It's not about the houses. It's not about the fame. It's not about other people looking at you like, man, that guy's the shit, which those are all cool. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with having goals around those things. But you know what he said? Changed my life forever. He said, success is about what the fuck you feel like on the inside. When you look in the mirror, the emotions that are immediately triggered. Do you see somebody that you're proud of? Do you see somebody that is progressing, that is putting in the work, that is actually making an effort to better themselves so that they can help the people around them? That's what success is. It's about what the fuck you feel like on the inside. And there's no bullshitting yourself. You can bullshit everybody else, but you, deep down, you know when you tried your hardest, and you know when you left shit on the table. And that's my goal. Not anything else, but to feel proud of the man that I see when I look in the mirror. Because if that's taken care of, I could give a shit less. I don't care if I'm the richest man in the world or not. Because right now, if I told you, hey, you can be the richest man in the world, but the way you would have achieved that money would be such in a dirty way that you probably wouldn't be happy with yourself and you'd probably be ashamed because how you got the money. Most sane people wouldn't take it. They just wouldn't. If I said you're going to get $1 billion, but you can't wake up tomorrow, you probably wouldn't take it. You see, life means more to us than money. Some of us have morals and ethics that we will put above money. I've had an opportunity. I'll tell you a quick story. In my second brokerage, I didn't know shit from fuck. I heard Hermosi say that one time. I thought that was really funny. But I didn't know anything. And they started supplying me with a lot of leads. And I was slowly, little by little, starting to figure out how to close deals, how to help people buy a house, how to actually turn these leads into profitable transactions. And on one of the largest transactions that I had done at the time, it was about, I believe, like 580,000, like 480. I think it was 480. So just under $500,000. And my commission on that total gross commission was like 13 and some change. Let's just call it 14 grand. And because my brokerage supplied me with the lead for free, the agreement was up front, the lead is free, but on the back end, once it closes, it's a 50-50 split, right? Well, come the day of closing, once everything was finalized, I got my check and it was for the full amount. It was for almost $14,000. And I got to tell you, I did think to myself, well, if I just stay quiet, would anybody notice, right? Like, they screwed up on their end. I'm supposed to be getting half of this, but they gave me the whole thing. Like, I'm just going to stay quiet and whatever, move on. But the thought of being confronted about that money and me have already spent it, I was just like, this is too much. My morals, my ethics mean way more to me than 7 fucking grand. And I know God is going to bring that money back to me in multiples. There's things in this world that mean more to us than money. And I hope that you realize it. Because if you put money at the top of your value ladder, you're fucked.